Okay, good morning everyone. We're on our last day of class. I do want to say if you're online you aren't able to see this, but Rachel is actually at the keyboard, Haley's sitting beside her, so but Rachel's using Haley's sign-in. So Rachel's running things today, so if you can ask Rachel questions periodically throughout class, that would be awesome so she gets some practice with that. Anyways, we are going to, well there you go. Okay, so we have a question in Learning Catalytics. This relates to what we did on Monday. Which of the following is typically used as the base in a vertical analysis of an income statement? So I said when we're doing vertical analysis, there's three things you need to know. First of all, vertical analysis is useful for comparing companies of different sizes. And then you need to know the base for a balance sheet and the base for an income statement. Just off the, let me see where we are. Okay, about 77%, right? On a vertical analysis, you're always going to use net sales. Now remember, this is the term that can be different depending on whose income statement we're looking at, but it's going to be that top number. It's going to be net sales or revenue or net sales revenue. You can say it different ways, but it's net or it has sales or revenue in the title. It is absolutely, positively never going to be net income. Okay. Okay, that question will stay open for a few minutes or a minute or two, some undetermined length of time, so it's not going to close on your device for a little bit. So we are going to go over logistics again, just to make sure. Sometimes if you hear it a second time, you hear something you didn't hear the first time, or I say something, I think I've got everything. Okay, so our final exam is next week. It's chapters 9 through 13. It officially runs Monday, May 4th at 9 a.m. through Friday, May 7th. You have to finish by 12:30 p.m. The exam will automatically submit at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday. Even if you start at 12:15 p.m., it's going to submit at 12:30 p.m. It's very important to know that it's going to submit then. If you were to say, oh, I just started at 12:15, it submitted on me, I didn't get my full hours, can I do it again? No. Okay, the exam is over at 12:30 Friday, it's done. So waiting to take it till Friday is a really bad idea. You're gambling that everything will go perfect according to plan. For sections 1 and 2, because of the possibility of long lines, they're opening up the computer lab for Sunday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So, and it's our class only from 8 a.m. to noon. So there will, I can't imagine a scenario where there would be lines on Sunday. So you are, if you're in sections 1 or 2, you're welcome to take the exam on Sunday in the computer lab. It should be very quiet, no lines. So if you want to do that, you can. That is your option if you're in sections 1 or 2. If sections 5 and 6, this exam, more than any other exam, you need to schedule your exam ahead of time, first of all, to avoid the fee. But even more importantly, if you wait till Thursday of finals week and think, I'm going to do this, schedule my exam on demand, you call ProctorU, you'll leave a voicemail, and it could be several hours till they call you back, because this is the version of long lines for ProctorU. There are thousands of students across the country using ProctorU during finals week. So you want to make sure you schedule your time. If you schedule your time, you're good. Okay, so just make sure you schedule your exam ahead of time. If you haven't done it yet, I would do it today. Okay, what's due this Saturday? The homework for chapter 13 is due. There is an exam 3 info quiz. Very easy, just a few multiple choice questions. Practice exam 3 counts as a quiz, and it is due before you take the exam. All homework is due this Saturday. There's no extensions. So all semester you've been able to do the homework. Excuse me. One, like, I have a frog in my throat. Okay, you've been able to take the exam or the homework a day late and 10 points off for each day late. 10% off per day late. That's all done on Saturday. So Saturday, May 2nd. all homework's due. That's the last time. You can't submit it Sunday. It's all due. That's the break cutoff line. Okay, finals week. Your 3 lowest quizzes will be dropped no later than Monday after finals week. I cannot drop them until Friday after all the practice exams are in, and I'm at a conference on Friday, so the earliest I possibly could would be Friday night, and I'm not sure I'll do it. So I'll do it before Monday. You'll know when I do it too. First of all, you'll see in My Accounting Lab, if you go into results, you'll scanning down your list of quizzes, you'll see some are grayed out once I've done it. I'll also post an announcement that that has been done. Okay, I'll be working on grades Monday after finals week or sooner. I cannot touch grades until everyone's done with their exams. So if you're obsessively checking your grades, you cannot, don't even bother trying to check until, well, everyone doesn't finish their exam till Friday 12:30, and I'm at a conference, so the very absolute earliest your grades would be in would be Saturday, but I'm promising Monday, Tuesday at the latest. Grades have to be in by Tuesday, but I'm not going to wait till Tuesday. And important, and I don't mean to be abrupt about this, but I'm not going to adjust any one person's grade. If you email me and say I'm only X amount away from the next higher grade, I need it to A, graduate, B, stay in the country, or whatever reason. Your grade is what you earned in the class. If I adjust anyone's grade, it's going to be everyone's or no one's. So I'm not going to do individual grades. That's not fair. That's not ethical for me to treat students differently than each other. So I'll be looking at grades after everyone's done with their score. Okay, so your final course grade. So let's say you've taken the final exam. I've dropped the 3 lowest quizzes. If you click on My Accounting Lab, on results, and then overall score, you will see your grade in the class. You can compare that to the front page of the syllabus for what grade you're receiving in the class. I would say there's a 99% chance that's your grade in the class. Your grade in the class won't be lower than that. And I will not adjust an individual person's grade. Okay, office hours during finals week are different than the regular week because of a different schedule. I will be in my office Monday and Tuesday of finals week. I will email out the hours sometime this weekend, but the reason I'm in Monday and Tuesday is because if you want to talk about anything, let's talk about it before you take the final. After you've taken the final exam, it does no good to come and see me, see what else you can do. There is nothing else you can do. So I have office hours Monday and Tuesday. After Tuesday of finals week, all communications via email. Okay, so if you need to see me Monday and Tuesday, and that's by design. We can talk, I can help before you take the final, but once you take the final, you cannot come plead your case and get a higher grade out of me. That's not going to happen. So I've got office hours early in finals week. Okay, exam 3 reference sheet. It's on Blackboard. You have it during your exam just like the first 2. In case you wanted it today, all the formulas are written down on the exam reference sheet, the formulas we're going over today. And so if you want a quick place to grab them, it's at tiny.cc/exam3notes. So it has all the formulas. We have a lot of formulas today. Also, I would urge you today as we go through these formulas, I'll say things about each formula or each ratio. Those notes that I'm talking about are on PowerPoint and Blackboard, and you can download those. So if you want those notes later, that might be helpful. Haley, could you go get my water? I don't know where my keys are. There's my keys. No, that's right on my desk. There's a big mug with a straw. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so with that, any questions? Well, and I wanted to share a little bit just to reiterate. Studying for the final exam. If this were me, I would make sure I've read all the chapters one time through. You know you're going to have a little bit of vocabulary. Make sure you know the major words. And then I would start into study plan, kind of go through there. The quiz me is a kind of ballpark, see if you know what you're doing. Try some of the problems, see where your weaknesses are. And then when you're ready, go in, take the practice exam one time. When you go through the practice exam the first time, make sure you use the Help Me Solve This and the hints that are available to you, because that's how you're going to learn the material. After you've taken the practice exam the first time, you might want to go back into study plan and work on the areas you were weak on the practice exam, and then go back into the practice exam, but do something in between. If you didn't get a great score, do something in between to study, because if you just do it again, it's not going to maybe significantly help. Make sure when you take the practice exam, you're using those aids to get your score. You should not take a practice exam and get a score of 30%. That means that, and I know how it's tempting to do this. You're rushing through. You're like, okay, well, I'll just guess and hope I get the right answer. You need to work through the practice exam. Use the Help Me Solve This. Help it guide you through that practice exam, because that's how you learn the material. And don't take the practice exam just once. Take it a few times, because it's going to be different each time you take it. So you really, that practice exam, working your way through it, take the time. By the 5th time you take it, you have 5 times. That 5th time, probably it's a good idea to try to do it without the aids, but to kind of simulate exam conditions, but maybe you don't have to do that either. But do work out the problems when you go through it. Just looking at it probably isn't going to help you in the long run. Okay, any questions? Rachel, I'm asking you, are there any questions? Okay. Okay, anybody in here have any questions? Okay, so then we're going to get started on the work for today. We're into chapter 13. The last 2 learning objectives are ratios. They're kind of combined together. So we're going to be looking at ratios today. There are 5 groups of ratios, and we're going to go through all 5. This is a good thing to put on a flashcard to kind of memorize. There's 5 groups of ratios. You should know what's in each of the 5 groups. They're listed in your book. So the first group is the ability to pay current liabilities. There's measuring turnover and cash conversion cycle, measuring leverage, measuring profitability, and analyzing stock as an investment. So you've got these 5 groups. You should be able to identify which ratios measure which. And I'm going to show you as we go. Okay, so we're going to see these categories again. What it is today. Okay, so the first category, measure the ability to pay current liabilities. Why are we concerned about if a company can pay its current liabilities? That's the thing it needs to do first and foremost to not go out of business, right? It needs to be able to pay its current liabilities, and we have ways to measure that. So our ability to pay current liabilities, that first category, we can measure it using 3 measurements. We say ratios. The first one really isn't a ratio. It's working capital, and then the current ratio, and then the quick or acid test ratio. Okay, so the first one there, working capital. Working capital is not really a ratio, it's a measurement. It's current assets minus current liabilities. Remember when we talk about current things, we're talking about things within a year. So current assets are things that are going to be consumed or used up, or they're resources that are available to us within the year. Current liabilities are those things that are due within a year. So the current assets are our resources, kind of our liquid resources, and current liabilities are what we owe. So you want this number to be positive, absolutely. You want to have more resources than what you owe. Working capital is a measure of your liquidity, okay, your ability to pay your debts. This should be positive. And that's not a little working capital. You have to have a fair amount of working capital. We don't have exact measurements. On working capital, generally you want the higher the better. You want it to be, generally speaking, I'm sure there's limits, but the higher your working capital, the better. That means you have the resources to pay your current obligations. Okay, next one is a ratio. So in this ability to pay current liabilities group, there's working capital, the current ratio, and the quick ratio. So the current ratio is probably one of the most common ratios we see. It's current assets divided by current liabilities. So it's like working capital, but it's making it relative by converting it into a percentage. The higher the better, rule of thumb. You want the current ratio absolutely to be higher than 1. Generally, you would like to see the current ratio 1.5, 2, somewhere in that range. If it's below 1, you don't have enough resources to pay your current obligations. So the current ratio, you want to see 1.5. You want to see higher than 1 somewhere. And it depends on your industry. When we look at ratios, you can't just look at one number, just like you can't take someone's temperature and immediately assess their health. It's like this. You have to look at ratios over time, and you also have to compare ratios to competitors or benchmarks to see how a company is doing. But current ratio, certainly we want it greater than 1. Okay, so it's our current assets divided by our current liabilities. Next one is the quick or acid test ratio. So this is our third and final one of the ratios in that group, ability to pay current liabilities. So quick ratio is a more stringent measure of our ability to pay our current liabilities. It's our cash plus our short-term investments plus our receivables divided by current liabilities. Okay, this is called the quick ratio or the acid test ratio. And again, all these formulas are given on your exam reference sheet, so you don't need to worry about memorizing them. But you do need to know where they fall, like what does it measure. This one is one of the abilities to pay current liabilities. The quick ratio is a more stringent measure than the current ratio because what we're not including in the top number there is inventory. So basically we're saying, maybe sometimes inventory is hard to sell. We can't count on having inventory available to pay our current liabilities. So let's look at our ability to pay current liabilities without inventory, since it can take longer to sell. So generally in most industries, a current ratio or a quick ratio of 0.9 to 1 is good. So it's going to be lower than the current ratio, but 0.1 or 0.9 to 1, somewhere in that range. So in the quick ratio, the reason it's called the quick ratio, the name is quick, it's because it's looking at the ability to pay your current liabilities quickly. And inventory would not be available to pay a current liabilities right now. We would have to sell it and collect from our customer, so there's a lag time there. So the quick ratio is saying how much do we have available to sell quickly. But it's also known as the acid test ratio. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to do a homework problem that uses these ratios. So we'll get a little bit of practice with those. So we're going to do 13.6. 13.6, we have a balance sheet. We have balance sheet data. I will show it coming up. But it says it wants us to compute the acid test ratio and then it gives this company's competitors, and it gives their asset test ratio, so we're supposed to compare. So first of all, the asset test ratio, the formula which we already saw, is cash plus short-term investments plus receivables divided by current liabilities. Okay, so that's our formula we're going to be using. So the balance sheet that's given then, when they give us the balance sheet, we need to pick those things off the balance sheet. And what we're going to do is we're going to go up in the top of the balance sheet in the assets, current assets, and we are going to there a slide. Plus I'm going to send out an announcement, but I went over, you can look back at the slides, Rachel. Okay, I will be emailing out the office hour announcement as well, but that's, so you have to look back. Okay, so balance sheet, you're going to see your current assets at the top of the balance sheet. So we go through and we pick out our cash, short-term investments, and receivables, add those up, divide by the current liabilities, and we get 1.2. Or 1 point, yeah. Okay. So then we do the same thing with 2013. 2013 we just move and we do 1.07. Okay, so what we have there for the 2 years then is the quick ratio for 2014 is 1.2, for 2013 it's 1.07. So it's moving in the right direction. Remember, with the current ratio and with the quick ratio, higher is better. So we were acceptable in 2013. It was greater than 1, that's great. But we got even more liquid. We have more ability to pay our current liabilities in 2014. So that's good. And then when we look at our competitors, we look at the 3 benchmark competitors we have, they all have lower quick ratios than we do. So we would say that they are in a fairly strong position with respect to their ability to pay current liabilities compared to their competitors. So not only did they improve, but they're stronger than their competitors. Okay, now the next homework exercise I'm going to do is going to introduce No, I'm going to send the next homework problem out. There's a lot of writing. So what I'm going to do is exercise 13.7. I'm going to email out a step-by-step recording of it. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to go to, we're going to do a question real quick. You'll see it on the screen. Okay. So our question here is a true-false question about the asset test ratio, which is the quick ratio, reflects the company's percentage of total assets financed with total debt. So look at the formula for that. Okay, so just put your devices away for the moment. We're going to give Learning Catalytics a 5-minute timeout, and we'll see if we can revisit it. So yeah, you can see my voice, so it should be good. Yeah, I just turned off audio in case you were wondering online. That was an intentional thing. So anyways, we're giving Learning Catalytics a timeout for the moment. So the asset test ratio, this is actually false. It is the measure of the current like cash, short-term investments, and receivables divided by current liabilities, not total assets and not total debt. So that's why that one's false. Okay, so let's go next to turnover and cash conversion cycle. So with this, we have 5 ratios: inventory turnover, accounts receivable turnover, days sales outstanding, and accounts payable turnover and cash conversion cycle. So once again, we've got 5 of these. Okay, so inventory turnover, accounts receivable turnover, days outstanding, accounts payable turnover, and cash conversion cycle. We're going to go over each one of these. Inventory turnover, again, the ratios are listed on the exam reference sheet. They're also listed on the PowerPoint slides that you can download. Inventory turnover, it measures the number of times a company sells its inventory in a given year. This is going to vary widely depending on the industry. If you're a grocery store, your inventory turnover should be very, very rapid. It should be very high inventory turnover because your stuff goes bad if it's not sold. So grocery stores will have a high inventory turnover. On the other hand, jewelry stores have a much lower inventory turnover. So the inventory turnover ratio is very much industry dependent. And then you would compare your inventory turnover ratio to competitors to see how you compare. You would also look at your inventory turnover ratio over time because you want to make sure that you're heading the right direction. Like if your inventory turnover is getting smaller and smaller, that indicates you're having trouble selling your inventory. Okay. Next one is days inventory outstanding, which basically it's converting the inventory turnover ratio into how many days on average does it take to sell your inventory. That's what this is looking at. So the smaller the number, this number, the better. Okay. So days inventory outstanding is how many days it takes to sell your inventory. Okay, days inventory outstanding, we're going to be talking about the cash cycle at the end of all these. And the cash cycle is how long it takes from the time you order materials until you sell them and your customer pays you. This is this cash cycle. And this is going to be part of it, and that's why it's abbreviated DIO. We'll say days inventory outstanding coming up using another measure. Okay, next one in this turnover and cash conversion cycle is the accounts receivable turnover, which is net sales over average net accounts receivable. Just to make note, usually when you see the word average, like right here, if you're given beginning of the year and end of the year balances, you have to take that, add the beginning of the year, end of year, divide by 2. So just when you see the word average, if you're given a beginning year and end of year, typically you have to add them, divide by 2. Some problems will just give you the numbers. It'll give you the average already. So you don't always have to do it necessarily. This is going to measure our ability to collect cash from customers. are we collecting cash? This is how on average how many times a year we turn our receivables over. The higher the better. Rule of thumb, the higher the better on this one. Days sales outstanding, this is on average how many days of receivables remain, or how many days sales remain in receivables. And it's on average how long it takes to collect receivables. So this is interesting because you can figure out what your average time to collect receivables is and compare it to your terms. So if you're selling your items on terms of net 30 and this number comes out to be 57, that means the majority of your customers are delinquent. Okay, and you're gonna see these formulas again coming up. Accounts payable turnover, cost of goods sold divided by average accounts payable. Again, that word average means you're going to take beginning of the year, end of the year, divide by 2 if you're given both. Okay, and then we have days payable outstanding. On average, how many days it takes us to pay our own invoices. Days, are you answering that as you're typing? Okay, then I'll yeah. Okay, then I won't jump in. Okay, and then the cash conversion cycle is how long it takes from the time we begin making a product until we collect from the ultimate customer. That's going to be our days inventory outstanding plus our days sales outstanding minus our days payable outstanding. Okay, and are we on Learning Catalytics yet? Okay, we're just checking periodically. We'll let you know. So in the meantime, relax. We're just going to do this mentally. A high inventory turnover may indicate that a company is experiencing difficulty selling its inventory. True or false? So this is where you lock in mentally. It is not on Learning Catalytics. We are not able to run it right now. And that is false. High inventory turnover is good. High inventory turnover means that we're able to sell our products. We're selling our inventory fast, and that's a good thing. It doesn't have anything to, that's the exact opposite. If we were having trouble selling our inventory turnover ratio would be decreasing. We have another group of ratios. Overall ability to pay debts, there's 2 of these, debt ratio and times interest earned ratio. Okay. Now, the first one, the debt ratio, is total liabilities divided by total assets. This indicates the percentage of our total assets financed with debt. A company has 3 ways to finance their assets. One is through retaining profits. As we make money, we can reinvest in our business, so that's one way. Another way is through debt, and the third way is through equity, like stock. So this is a measure of what percentage of our total assets is total liabilities. By the way, liabilities are considered the most risky way to finance assets because liabilities come with a requirement to pay it back and to pay interest, which can be high. So companies will have some debt, but they can't have all debt because that's considered to be way too risky. So this is a measure of a company's debt ratio. The other ability to pay debts, leverage, is the times interest earned. We're going to take the income from operations divided by interest expense. Okay, the higher the better on the times earned interest earned ratio. That means that the higher this is, the better it indicates the company can pay its interest. We are interested in saying, can it cover its required interest payments? Okay, we're going to do homework problem 13.8 right now, short exercise 13.8. So we're using the financial statements that we started with. So back to we have a balance sheet and income statements, and we're told to compute the company's debt ratio and the times interest earned ratio. So what we're going to do is compute the company's debt ratio. So what I've got on the screen is the company's balance sheet, and the debt ratio is total liabilities divided by total assets. We're going to see the last ratio in just a minute. You're going to get the formula in just a second. So we are revisiting it. So, and I knew that. That's why we're getting there. So debt ratio again, total liabilities to total assets. So what we're going to do here is we're going to find the total liabilities and divide by the total assets. So we get a debt ratio of 0.804. So what we see here is that this company has financed 80% of its assets using debt. This debt ratio is fairly high. We don't have a hard, fast rule for what's high, but 80% is pretty high, which indicates some risk there. They're going to have to make their debt payments. So we're going to go on and we're going to compute their times interest earned ratio. So the times interest earned ratio is at the bottom there. So here's that ratio we had before. Times interest earned ratio is income from operations divided by interest expense. So what we're going to do then for that is we're going to find our income from operations. And it tells us in the problem, in the requirement, it says compute the company's times interest earned ratio for operating income used income before both interest expense and income taxes. You can simply add interest expense back to income before taxes. So they're telling us to use the income before taxes and add back interest expense. So that is told to you in the problem. So when you're doing this homework problem, make sure that that's there. So you're going to take your income before income taxes, add back interest expense. How do I know to do that? Because it told me that for this data set to do it. Otherwise, you'd use income from operations if they give it to you, and divide by interest expense. And when we do that, we get a 7.7. Okay, 7.7 means that the company earns enough income 7.7 times over to pay its interest expense. So that's a fairly strong indicator. So we would say in this case the company looks like it's doing okay to pay its interest. On the other hand, their total debt ratio is a little high. So we have mixed signals about their debt. Did you check again, Haley, or something? Okay. Okay, so now the next group, measuring profitability. I'm going to pause on this for just a minute. You need to know where these ratios fall. We are not going through each of these ratios individually, but you need to know how they're classified. When you do the homework, you'll use a couple of these ratios. The ratios are on the exam reference sheet. They're also in the PowerPoint slides. So we're going to pause while you write this down, and I'm going to try getting into Learning Catalytics a different direction here. you a question. Are you looking? Learning calendar. Somebody answered. I got it out. Okay, so one person's answered, 3 people. So try Learning Catalytics now, because it looks to be working. Same session. Yep. Yeah. I'm on 4G. I don't know, it could be that we might need to restart that one. Pardon me? Same session ID we were using. So while you're gone, we got it to work. You can still answer. And I guess I should put that question up on the screen. Any idea where it is? Oh, I see it. Okay, got it. Okay. Okay, so everyone, Learning Catalytics is up and running. Same session ID before. Answer the question, a high inventory turnover may indicate that a company is experiencing difficulty selling its inventory. We saw this one earlier. So when we talk about inventory turnover, what we're doing is we're saying how many times in a given year is a company able to sell its inventory? How fast is it selling its inventory? So we're saying the true-false question is a high inventory turnover may indicate that a company is experiencing difficulty selling its inventory. True or false? So if everyone in this room, have you answered? We're waiting for about 10 people, so I'm assuming those are 10 people online. Make sure that you've answered false. We've gone over this before. We're going to close this question in about 10 seconds. Okay. Everyone okay? Ready? Okay. They do it right? Yes. Okay. Huh. Pretty cool. Okay, let's do another one. So this is not showing on the screen, but we have another question out there. I'll read it to you. Ratios that test liquidity include all the following except what? Ratios that test liquidity include all the following except A, acid test ratio. Why don't we do, can you sign into Learning Catalytics as a student, Haley? And we'll do AppShare. So ratios that test liquidity include all the following except asset test ratio, current ratio, debt to total assets, or inventory turnover. Okay, when we talk about liquidity, we're talking about the ratios that measure liquidity's our ability to pay okay, great, good. Okay, we're talking about ratios that test our ability to pay current liabilities. I just had the screen up. We're going to do dueling screens here. because I had the screen up with the answer on it. Let me just, I'm not going to close this yet, but I want you to get the right answer. Okay, the question that's currently up right now is asking which of these ratios is not on this list. When we talk, the question is asking the ratios that test liquidity, okay? Liquidity is the same as the ability to pay current liabilities. So looking at the screen right now, you're looking for this and the next set measures liquidity. There's two sets. Why don't we do this? I've messed up this question terribly. Okay, share. You do share. You're going to answer C. Okay, so you want to answer C. C. We're going to close the question in 10 seconds. Make sure you've answered C. What? Okay. C. Okay. Are you watching the chat room window, Rachel, since I can't see it? Sure. Okay. Okay, we're going to close this one now. Good. Okay. Okay. Let me see if I have another one here. Here's another one. Okay. Horizontal analysis compares period-to-period changes, changes in individual financial statements amounts as a percent of sum total, changes in key financial statement ratios, or benchmarking techniques. Horizontal analysis, we did that Monday. Okay, horizontal analysis. Remember, vertical analysis, we're talking about one particular year, we're looking at everything as a percent of one total. Horizontal analysis, think horizon, think of a row where we've got 2014, 2013, 2012, 2011, okay? So we are looking for horizontal analysis. So I'll tell you right now, answer B would be vertical analysis, okay? Answer B is vertical analysis. Therefore, it can't be B. We're doing horizontal analysis. We're looking at, say, for example, 2014, 2013, 2012, 2011. We are not looking at ratios at all, nor are we benchmarking. So we're going to close this question in 10 seconds or so. So we know that B is not the answer because that's vertical analysis. We are not looking with horizontal analysis. We're not using ratios, and we're not benchmarking. Okay. Okay, let's see if I do another one here. Okay, the current ratio measures a company's ability to pay current liabilities with current assets. Okay. You want to make sure you get your answer in, even if you've answered it before. You want to make sure you get your answer in. I'm going to close this in about 10 seconds. Okay, so even if you answered it before, you want to make sure you answer it right now. We're around 80% have answered it. I was redelivering this. Okay, this answer was true the first time around. You want to make sure you answer it so you get credit, because it's still true the second time around. I'm going to close it in about 5 seconds. Okay, new question up. Vertical analysis. So this is going back to Monday. Vertical analysis compares an item on the financial statement to the same item in a prior period. True or false? So we have two kinds of analysis, right? We have vertical analysis, we have horizontal analysis. Horizontal analysis is comparing this year to last year. Horizontal analysis comparing over time. Vertical analysis is not that. So vertical analysis compares an item on the financial statement to the same item in a prior period. Vertical analysis. Okay. Horizontal analysis compares. Okay, let me tell you what horizontal analysis is. Horizontal analysis compares an item on the financial statement to the same item in a prior period. That is horizontal analysis. Horizontal analysis compares an item on the financial statement to the same item in a prior period. That's horizontal analysis. This question is asking about vertical analysis. Okay, 91% correct. That's good. 94% good. You have about 10 seconds to get your answer in. Again, giving you a hint here, big huge hint. Horizontal analysis compares an item on the financial statement to the same item in a prior period. Okay, so that's horizontal analysis. So we're going to okay, we're going to do one last question, like one last question this semester. This is it, okay? So this is your final question for the semester. On a common size balance sheet, this is vertical analysis. Income tax payable is expressed as a percentage of what? Current liabilities, stockholders' equity, total assets, total liabilities. The answers are all over the board right now. When you're answering this, when you're thinking about your answer, I said there were 3 things you needed to know about vertical analysis. First of all, it's used to compare companies of different sizes. And then you had a base for the balance sheet, and you have a base for the income statement. So income taxes payable. That's the account we're asking about. What statement will that appear on? Will that appear on the income statement or balance sheet? Balance sheet. So this question is saying, on a balance sheet, income tax payable, which is what the question is, what's that expressed as a percentage of? What's the base for the balance sheet is what the question is asking. Okay, we have another 5 or 10 seconds to get this in. I will tell you right now, you should be able to do this. You've got to be able to recognize these. You need to know vertical analysis. If you have an income statement, you divide it by sales or total revenue. So it's not, and that's not even given here. On a balance sheet, you divide everything on the balance sheet by total assets. Make sure you've got total assets for your answer here. Okay, so I'm giving you the answer here. There's a lot of people that need to change their answer. Okay, so total assets, balance sheet, total assets. Okay, so we're coming to the end of class. Stop that one. Okay, so we are officially at the end of our time together. I am going to send out step-by-step video on the homework. There's 1 or 2 exercises we didn't do, and then you'll have that. So good luck in the future. Don't be a stranger. And remember, I have office hours Monday and Tuesday of finals week. I will be sending that out via an announcement. So have a good summer.